Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Chris Jones. The nonprofit sector can be a somewhat interesting space depending on what specialty you're working in and around. Today, I'm joined by Julie Sponagel to share some insights around the topic. Hello, Julie. How's it going?
Hello, it's going well. Good morning and happy Monday.
Happy Monday. I'm still skinning and grinning, as we say in the South, to have you on here. When I posed the question to you and you immediately jumped on it, I was so looking forward to having you on here. So thanks again for joining me.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking me.
Yep, absolutely. So the nonprofit sector, there's several components. There's so many, as I mentioned, spaces and places and areas that you can work in. But from your perspective, how did you discover the nonprofit sector and what is your current role?
Well, discovering the nonprofit sector, I have a feeling we're all way more involved in the nonprofit sector than we even realize. At its most boring core, it's a tax designation, right? That's really all it is. It's about how you handle your money and your finances. The way it tends to work, though, is that it tends to be more altruistic work, tends to be work that is more passion work for people, especially when we talk about like entrepreneurship within nonprofit or for-profit work, right? So those smaller organizations can be a little bit more focused on things that somebody had a mission, a heart for. But that's not to say that there isn't mission and heart and great work happening in the for-profit space. So, to me, it's all a part of it. But there's so much that we interact with on a daily basis that's in the nonprofit space. I actually grew up in that space. My parents worked for a nonprofit when I was growing up. They actually that took them on a journey to living overseas. I grew up in Seoul, Korea because of that. So in a personal sense, I gained greatly from that because my whole life and lifestyle was built upon that. But as an adult now and as pretty far seasoned from my childhood, that was a hot minute ago. I have found that just as a citizen, as a parent, I find that to be authentic to the things that are important to me, being involved in nonprofit work is important. Yeah. And as a mom, and when my kids were little, they're not now, but when they were little, as a parent, you have a lot of things that you just say, this is the way the world should work, right? Whatever it is, right. You're constantly teaching them little daily life lessons. And my daughter used to look at me and was like, well, if that's the way the world should be, what are we doing about it? And there were a lot of moments as a mom, I was like, well, shoot, I don't know what we're doing about it. I guess we better do something about that, right? And that tends to get you involved in nonprofit work. And so I just dragged my children along and said, well, if we're going to do something about it, we're going to do something about it together. So being a part of the change you want to see in the world is important to me.
Being a part of the change you want to see in the world. That's it. So in terms of what you're doing specifically now, like what does that look like?
Thanks for keeping me on track, Chris.
No, I got you. I got you.
So currently I work with a nonprofit that provides resources to people who have been incarcerated.
Oh, cool. Okay. And how long have you been doing that approximately?
So we just entered our second year. So last year was our first year. It's a brand new organization and just getting up and running with clients now.
Well, shame on me. I want to make sure I have the name of, if you don't mind, of the organization, of course, so I can help kind of, promote and bring some awareness about it, of course.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So the name of the organization is very simple to our mission.
Okay.
It's Stay Out Inc. Once you get out, we help you stay out.
Oh, Stay Out Inc.
Yes.
Stay Out Incorporated. I love that. I for whatever you can share, I know there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that's going on in that particular environment, but tell us more about, I guess, an experience, a memory and or experience that you've had thus far that's been moving and impactful to you in particular.
I don't know if that I can say one particular experience so much as just it's I feel like life is constantly a learning journey. Maybe I'm just the one that's slow on the uptake here, but I feel like I'm constantly learning new things, right? And often when you grow up with privilege, when you grow up with resources and support and things that I experienced in my life, you're just not aware of things around you, right? And I had no idea, for example, the lack of resources that are available when someone has completed their sentence, incarcerated, they get out. And I think I didn't need to know, so I didn't know, and I never put myself in a position to know. And learning how many people are reincarcerated really shines a light on the issues at hand where it comes to the lack of resources. And so you fall back into, for so many reasons, you fall back into similar types of issues and things going on. And one thing we like to talk about a lot in this country is crime. And we talk a lot about crime being something we want to reduce, right? And there's a Department of Justice quote. Oh shoot, Chris, I should have it here handy. I have it in my flyer, and of course I don't have it here, but I want to say it was in 2021. It was just a few years ago. Department of Justice did a survey of our study of people who had been incarcerated at the state level. And they found that 82% of people who had been incarcerated at the state level were reincarcerated within 10 years. Now stop and let that sink in.
What percent?
Did you say 80% of people across the country at the state level were reincarcerated. Okay, 82%. All right. Now, over half of those, or the majority of those, were reincarcerated within the first 3 years, and over half of that number were reincarcerated within the first year. If there's not an overwhelming number that shows you that reintroduction to society and that transition is a time of crisis, that stat tells that to you, right? And of course, the interesting thing about statistics, and I encourage people to go and do their own research, the interesting thing about statistics is normally you can find statistics that'll support any argument, right? Because we can convolute those numbers and all that. This is one thing that you can't find a positive number out there. Check me, but you can't find a positive number out there, right? There's all sorts of statistics about demographics related to reincarceration, and none of them are good. That being said, here's the thing. If we want to reduce crime in this country, the first thing we should do is provide services and support to reintegration of folks who have been incarcerated. That's a known population, right? Like we don't know who's our next new batch of criminals going to be, right? Like police are constantly trying to figure that out. And so we don't know who's going to necessarily commit a crime or not, but we do know who has committed a crime and who served time and got out based on all of our, current process and system and judicial laws and sentencing laws and all of those things. And when someone who gets out is struggling to get a driver's license renewed so that they can then show the right kind of ID for paperwork to get a job, and they're struggling with something as basic as that, and trust me, they are, when they're struggling with finding a job that will take someone with a record who has served their time and then now can't get a job, right? Like all those kinds of things are stacked. Just like I was talking to somebody recently and they said, if we could just give somebody a break every once in a while. I'm like, yeah, how many times do we all feel like we need that? And yet we tend to, designate groups of people as not worthy of a break or deserving a break. But if we want to reduce crime in this country, go with the people we know have committed a crime and make sure that they are supported in a way that doesn't encourage recommitting a crime.
Wow. That was a mouthful, needless to say.
I told you we could talk about this for a while.
I really like the way you presented that. My buddies and I have been talking for years, if not decades, about, reentry, that aspect of, what can we do to keep people out? What can we, resources we can provide, training, job training, etc. So I'm glad you touched on that, but I'm really, you make me feel some kind of way, and I mean that in a great way, when you introduced it. You mentioned your privilege in general, right? Being in a different, now I'm paraphrasing, being in your world, a different world or what have you, and you're not aware of how, society or certain things may adversely impact people that come from different, I don't know, be it socioeconomic groups, however you want to categorize it. But I just wanted to emphasize the fact that I love the way you presented it initially and the way you expounded on it. So thanks for that information. So I do have a question around, you know, a lot of people work in the nonprofit sector, if you will, various aspects of it, but a lot of people don't, of course, for profit and other type of ventures and such. What is like one aspect that comes to mind that people who aren't in that world that we may not realize, that we may not know?
I think there's often a lot of confusion as to why there's a designation. What's the difference? What's the responsibility of a nonprofit organization? What's the ownership of a nonprofit organization? I'm not a tax lawyer, so I'm not going to pretend to be one, and I don't play one at all on TV either. Right? Like I stay away from that. But there's a lot of answers out there, right? So if you're unsure, find out a little bit more about that. But otherwise, when it comes to nonprofit work, it's a business too, right? So we have to take it as seriously as we do for-profit work,
Right.
Because there's a result that we're looking for to come out of whatever that is. Our mission is our mission still, and so how we handle our taxes and how we handle donations and how we fund things and how we don't skim those profits and all those kinds of things, like that's just the formality around it, but
Right.
it needs to be run like anything else as well, and we have a responsibility to our donors, just like you have a responsibility in other sectors to your investors. Maybe would be another way to think about that.
Thanks for sharing that. Why do you think more people should consider that line of work, the nonprofit sector in particular?
So, I mean, you mentioned the line of work. I think sometimes let me talk maybe more about why people don't get involved with, if that's fair.
Oh, please.
And I think
Thank
it's
you.
because I think it feels too big. It feels like too much. It feels like maybe either the problem you're trying to solve is too big. So like, what's the point of doing that? Or it's, hey, my life is already full, right? I have to have a job that pays my bills, and I'm not going to go get a job in this space. And so you tend to just, we're all just surviving and maintaining, right? And we're trying to just, live our lives, do our jobs, pay our bills, take care of our families. And so it feels like too much to do. And I feel like people don't realize there's lots of inroads to nonprofit work. If there's something that you feel passionate about, for whatever reason, maybe you learned about it from someone else, which this work I've learned about from someone else, and I'd be happy to share a little bit more of the story of our founder. Or if it's something that you experienced yourself and you want to change, which is his story, regardless of your reason, whether it's a once a month, 1 hour volunteer, or you make it your new day job, wherever that range is, get involved, be involved, do something. And when it feels like it's too big, I think we get into this paralysis, and we've seen that as a country, right? We
Yes.
freeze and we just go, well, I can't do anything about it, and it doesn't make a difference. And so I'm just not going to do anything. And I guarantee the one thing that won't work is sticking our head in the sand and pretending like there's nothing we can do about anything. That's the one thing we know doesn't work. I don't know that everything else will work, but I know that won't work. And so I don't know that we have to all be like instigators of big, like tidal waves of change. But if we all paddle right where we are and make a little change, if we all did that, every single one of us did that, we would make mountains of change waves, right? Like it would be huge.
Yeah.
And so, and yeah, I can't focus on that, and neither can you. Like I can't force everyone else to get involved and do something. But when we take that on ourselves, and then we hopefully encourage others to join us and get our families involved. My poor kids, like I just forced them as a mom to get involved. Now they're both adults and they continue to stay involved. So I love that's just been a natural part of that. If we all do those kinds of things, at least we're making a difference in the life of whoever we're impacting in that moment. And that's the very least of what might happen. And it might be inspiring to make bigger change. And we see that all the time in our world, and in some really positive ways.
Yeah, I love that picture you painted, that analogy of paddling where we are. Yeah, I love that. And I will be using that as well, Julie.
Feel free. Absolutely.
I didn't make use, you mentioned, the founder of your nonprofit. Can you share, a little bit of that story?
I'd be happy to.
Yeah,
I'd be happy to. Yeah, so Ed is his name, and Ed has a unique story in this because he was 16 years old when he was convicted of a murder he did not commit. Ed did not commit this crime. He is not guilty of this crime, but he went in to incarceration at 16 years old, and he served 33 years incarcerated. I need to pause and say there's a lot of great work to be done in our legal system regarding those who have been wrongly incarcerated. Tons of work there. Our mission is not necessarily about innocence work. We're here to support anyone, regardless of whether they were guilty or not. But he, in that time there, as a young man going in, 16 years old, right? Like wrenched out of high school, wrenched out of life, wrenched out of all of that, and thrust into the adult penal system. Every time I stop and think about that, I'm the fortitude he had to have to get through that experience. And quite frankly, the fortitude people have to get through that experience, even if they've been guilty of a crime, is amazing. What he had a front row seat to, though, was seeing the revolving door of incarceration from the inside. And he talks about, here he is hoping to get out and knowing that he shouldn't be there, and watching other people come up for their release date. Oh, by the way, he had a life sentence. And so he didn't have any hope that he was going to get out. There's a whole story behind how he got out of finally. But he saw people who completed their sentence, knew that they were up for going out, expressed excitement about getting out and getting back to the life that they wanted to have, and all those kinds of things, those hopes and dreams about getting out. And then sometimes very shortly thereafter, seeing them back. And the conversations that they had on the inside, and I'm greatly paraphrasing, but kind of this like, dude, why are you back here? Right? Like, why are you here? You didn't want to be here and now you're back. Why? And for him to hear them share the stories of how hard it was on the outside, how difficult life was to be able to have that life that they had dreamed of, and found themselves in situations that put them right back in. And, he kind of shook his head at that, like, couldn't believe that. And yet when he got out after 33 years, he experienced firsthand how hard it was. And that was as someone who hadn't committed the crime, right? And so he knew just how hard that was. But everything from the emotional and social impact in his life, the learning how to drive and getting a driver's license, let alone getting it reinstated. Like, he was 16 when he went in. So think about where he was in his life, learning all the new technology that had come in the last 33 years and all of those kinds of things, right? Like all of that. He saw that firsthand. And so the mission that sort of came to him was, I want to provide resources. And there are some resources currently that exist. And in some places we do it better than others. And so we really have a mission to be a conduit of those resources for those that already exist, and to create resources where we don't have those resources. And we're both based in Kansas City, Missouri area, Kansas City, Kansas. We're all one area, by the way, for those who are all crazy about why we're on the Missouri or Kansas side. It's one metro area, but we're in the Kansas City area.
Okay.
And we currently work with folks sort of centered in this area, but we have a dream to spread this across the nation and really, again, shine light on the areas that are currently providing great resources, and then be able to and be a conduit to those and help provide those opportunities of connection. We're not looking to reinvent any wheels. If the wheels are there, we'll just help shine a light to those, but then provide resources where they don't exist otherwise.
Wow. I had to come back on camera the time before when I heard the 33 years. That one, that really punched me in the gut.
It's a whole lifetime.
I mean, especially as you emphasize when the person was innocent. I mean, yeah, I don't even want to belabor that point because it gets me revved up every time. But that's an amazing story. Wow.
Well, and I'm inspired by someone who, again, he could be spending a lot of his time and energy being angry and upset about a great injustice that happened, right? And I think a lot of times, whether the injustice in our life is great or small or whatever, an injustice feels like an injustice. And a lot of times we get hung up on what should have happened and the wrong that was there. And he's inspiring in the sense that he took that energy and is placing it in something, be a part of the change you want to see in the world, right?
Yeah, exactly what you said before. Yep. Wow. Awesome way to bring that home too. I had no idea it was going to be via a story like that, though. That is that's incredible. So I'm going to make sure I incorporate as much information as I can. I too obviously are going to delve into it, and that kind of peels some layers back to find out more about him. Whatever is shared on this site. So thanks for sharing that. I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to close this out with you. I can talk but I'm going to respect your time, and we both have some other things to do for the remainder of the day. But anyway, having said that, I want to run this statement by you, and I want you to finish it. All right? So pretty straightforward. I know you can handle it. So here goes. If I had the opportunity to start my own nonprofit today, I would
help other people start more nonprofits.
Oh, yes.
We all need to get involved, and we get hung up on the how do I get my 501c3 status, and how do I start getting donors, and how do I market myself, and all the entrepreneurial pieces that we need as small business owners when you want to start your own small business. And you've got things like the Small Business Administration and the different, wherever you are, local groups that help with those kinds of things, and keep doing those. Like that, I don't want to take away from that. I'd like to do something like that for the nonprofit space, because I think people maybe have a desire to do things and then they get stuck and don't know how. But I'm not there yet. I need to get those resources for myself. But as soon as I get those down, I'll want to share with others.
Okay. I'll be circling back with you about that part as well.
Sounds great. I like it.
That's good stuff. Julie, it's been a pleasure and an honor to have you on here. We met years ago in the for-profit space, and knowing that you're still there and on this side as well, flourishing. I just love seeing people progress and seeing people 5, 10, 20 years later to see what they're doing. Thanks for sharing, what you do, more about the nonprofit sector in general, and offering the specificity that you have today, especially bringing it home with that story that you shared. So thank you so much for that.
Of course. Well, I think so often, again, we get overwhelmed. And even just looking at current news going on in our country right now. so often we're overwhelmed, and life is a learning journey. And Maya Angelou, one of my favorite quotes from her is, do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. Keep learning. And once you know something, you can't unknow it. So don't pretend to try. And that compels us to action, figure out where we can be. And that's what I try to encourage everyone to do and be a part of that. We have time. It's not about not having time. It's about where we spend our time.
We have time. I love it. Julie, hey, thanks again for joining me. Oh my goodness. And
yeah, to the thanks audience, for reaching out. How exciting.
I had to. I'm glad this worked out this way. And to the audience, it could work out for you this way as well. But no, seriously, thanks for tuning in. As always, like this video and any other video that resonates with you. Leave a comment regarding the material that Julie provided. If you have a nonprofit, if you are, doing some type of nonprofit work, if you will, provide it in the comments. I'll love to showcase it and or spotlight it in some capacity. But subscribe to the channel and share it. Click the notification bell so you can be notified of my latest video. As you guys know, this is another way we creatively inform and inspire, helping folks write the lives they desire. Until next time, take care.